Hey YouTube land, Tychondrus here doing another action figure review, and today we still seem to be keeping with the Batman theme this month, this year, this last couple of reviews. Well, with the exception of the Cartoon Collection Webster, which was one I recorded a while back, but these are more recent ones. We have another Batman figure, and this time it is one of the Batman villains. It's one I was looking forward to tracking down, and I managed to find it locally, and this is none other than Clayface. So he is quite a nice redesign, because this line by Spin Masters have done Clayface in the past. He was part of a 2-pack. We'll have a look at him in a little bit, but before we do that, we'll have a look at the packaging. So this is the Batman packaging he comes in. You can see the name of the character here, and it says includes 2 accessories. So while I do appreciate that they have up the kind of detailing on the figure, they have dropped the accessories. So for this wave, from what I can see, I'm not sure if there's other chase variants in this wave, but there is a Rebirth Batman, there's a Joker, which is an all-new sculpt. It's not the previous sculpt we've gotten before. There is the aforementioned Clayface. There is Metallic Rebirth Batman, which is done in gold. There is Nightwing Robin Batman, which has the look of, what was he called? Looks like the one from Justice League, from the future thing. Was it Nightmare Batman, I think it was called, from the Nightmare Future thing. So he has that kind of trench coat and the armor on. And then there is a silvered version, Metallic Rebirth Joker, it says. Or Rebirth the Joker. So it is interesting to note that the Joker here doesn't say Rebirth Joker, but the metallic one does. There is a QR code, and you are treated to having that kind of locker thing on the side with the accessories, which he does have. He has a weird set of accessories, which we'll get into in a minute, but I just want to bring in previous packaging. So this is kind of the more recent previous edition style of packaging. This is Combat Batman, so I can't remember which version of Combat Batman this is, or which Batman figure this is. There's been so many in this line, and I could pick one up and it could be the wrong version that was packaged in here. But that said, you can see here there is 3 accessories, where they have now been whittled down to 2. Now I'm not sure if that's because of the additional paint apps, but we will get into that in a minute. But we'll have a look at Clayface himself. So Clayface is actually quite a big figure. He's not, I believe he's bigger than or taller than a standard figure. Let me get him standing. So we're bringing the old tape measure to have a look-see. So you can see he is around 4.5 inches in height. So that is at least a step bigger than his previous counterpart. At least I believe it is a step in more than the previous version of him, because I do have that to hand, so we might as well do a comparison. Here is previous version Clayface to this new version. I am digging the new one a lot more, mainly because it is far more articulated than the previous one. This previous version only had a waist swivel. He had a weird head swivel, which this newer one still kind of has, but it was more just a rotation on the head. He had a hinge on the shoulders, and that was it. He had nothing in the arms, nothing in the legs and knees, or in the shoulders. Sorry, not shoulders, but in the elbows, and nothing in the wrists. So this particular line is known for its kind of, it has articulation, but it's not full articulation, if you know what I mean. It doesn't have like ankle joints or wrist swivels like a lot of other kind of 4-inch scale lines does, but it does have some decent articulation. But before we go on to him, we will have a look at his really weird accessory. So this is his 2 accessories, and they are combined. He comes with this weird little egg. Now I don't know if the idea, there's holes on the top of this, So I don't know if the idea behind this is that you put ooze into it or some sort of liquidy stuff and it pours out of it to simulate him being, you know, Clayface. Or if you have, which if I can find it, it is here. This is the bow staff that came with the Robin figure, the more recent one, not one of the older ones, but it seems to fit through here like this, so you can kind of look like he's glued onto something. I'm not sure if you had a second one you could put the bottom through it. It looks like he's like a rock or something on this thing. It does seem to fit this. I'm not sure if it fits all accessories, but it is kind of a weird, it looks like a big poop. So he looks like a big turd in a rock form, but it is what it is. But onto the figure himself. So I do like the look of this figure. So again, he still has that slightly weird head tilt, but it's a bit, it's not as bad. There is a sort of 45-degree angle going on, so you kind of get a kind of weird off to the side look for his head, but it's not as bad as the previous version. The arms are on a shoulder joint, which can rotate around, but you have to move the arms out. It won't rotate straight up. You'll move them out, splay them out to the side when you're rotating it. And again, on the other side, he is quite nicely detailed. He does have a peg hole on the back, so if you have Batman accessories, those will peg into him. I'm not sure if there's too many in the line of villain accessories from this line. I know a lot of them tend to be Batman orientated or Bat family orientated accessories, but there is that. He does have elbow swivels this time and elbow joints, and his left hand is this honking great big bouldery granite block, cinder block if you want to call it. It's done nicely. It is nicely detailed. You can see it's kind of like it does taper into a different sort of brown. It has a more solid brown paint application than the actual brown of the plastic that the figure is molded from. There is airbrushing done on him for the different kind of shades of brown, which is quite nice. And then his right hand takes a nod from the original figure, which you can see here. He has that big spiked mace. The big spiked mace is something of a nod to the old original the animated series version of Clayface as well, which I do have a figure for. I just haven't seen it in a long while, but the old animated version of the figure was made of a vinyl plastic, which is kind of cool. He was kind of squishy, and the idea behind that was because you had this big mace, spiked mace, but on the animated version it was silver, and he was very limited in articulation. He was similar to this guy with the arms just being the only kind of real articulation on him. But what you would do is you'd push the spike in, you'd press him as hard as you could, and it would, because of the pressure build up because it was all vinyl or kind of a rubbery material, and because there was no kind of seam, or I don't think there was a seam line, but there was no kind of gaps in it, and when this was plugged in, it would create an air seal. So when you pressed him hard enough, that would fly out like a missile. It was like it wasn't spring loaded, but it was a kind of early attempt at doing sort of like a launching device, but it was more manually operated than that. He does have legs this time that can actually move, so his legs can kick forward and kick back. He can kick out, do the splits, move his hand out of the way, do the splits that much. He does have thigh swivel, which is kind of nice. Again, nothing in the knee, which is a staple for this line for the villains, for larger style villains. So characters like Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, Joker, anyone that's more human sized tend to have standard knee articulation. Whereas if we get into a rogues gallery of villains here now in a second, which is, we'll bring in Grundy, Solomon Grundy, who has trouble standing. We'll bring in the Bane figure they did. In fact, no, he doesn't have knees either. We'll bring in the more recent Killer Croc they did. They did do a previous version of Killer Croc, and he's not bad, but this one is much, much better. So just like with Clayface, they've kind of gone back to some of the earlier villain characters and done upgrades on them. And bear with me a moment, I'm going to see if I can grab the King Shark figures. see how the villains, the slightly taller villains, stack up. So this guy is in, as I said, in the taller range of categories, because I have him here beside me and who's using them. Here is their version of Deathstroke from this particular kind of line. As you can see, the kind of more human characters do have that knee joint, whereas the slightly larger, obscure, kind of out of proportion, even though these guys are kind of chunky, out of proportion style characters do have that no knee thing. In fact, I don't think, I'm trying to think if that Tiger Claw had knee joints. I think he might be the only exception that has knee joints, and he's a big figure, and I kind of wish they would have stuck with it, but unfortunately they don't. So with Clayface kind of done, I'm going to do a little bit of a segue and do a quick review of the Robin figure, because I picked him up but I don't have his packaging. So this is the newer version Robin. Again, he came with 2 accessories. So he came with that aforementioned quarterstaff, which I will blop into his hand. And if I can find his other accessory, which should be on the ground here somewhere, or on the table here, I will bring that in. I think, yes, Batwoman or Batgirl has it. He comes with this weird grapple launcher. It's designed to fit in his hand, but I find the handle quite big on it. But he does come with a grapple launcher. So I think the reason why these guys come with more or less accessories than previous is because they have a lot more paint apps. So if I bring in the previous version of Robin, this I believe is supposed to be the same. This is supposed to be Damian Wayne Robin, and I believe this is supposed to be the same Robin grown up, possibly. I'm not too sure, because I don't know if there's a kind of running kind of lore history thing to these versions. But you can see this guy has a bit more paint applications, especially on the chest area. That red is painted, not molded. This one's just molded. You have the green has been painted onto him. The eye mask is pretty much similar. This one has a cape, whereas this new version doesn't have a cape. So I'm not sure it's based on one of his newer, more recent appearances. They do tend to stick closely to the comic, more like the comic adaptations of characters when doing this line, which is kind of cool. But for articulation wise, he's pretty much similar to that of Clayface and more in kin with the Deathstroke. So head is on a ball joint, can rotate all the way around. Arms can rotate fully around. You have a single jointed elbow. You got the hinge in the shoulder that can push the arm out that much. Nothing in the waist, even though it looks like it's a separate piece. I believe this is a separate piece for the utility belt, but it is paint applications, whereas it is paint on the other one, but it's a sculpted part to the body. This looks like it's separate. It's very hard to tell. It looks like it is separate. It almost looks like he should have waist swivel, but he doesn't. He splits that much, kick forward that much, has thigh swivel, has a single jointed knee. Just get the knee to bend. It does have peg holes on the bottom of the feet, and I do believe, yes, Clayface does have peg holes on the bottom of his feet as well. And just like the other figures, he does have that big peg hole in the back. It is a bit unsightly, but again, you can pop in bat themed accessories for him. So you have a little wing backpack for him, you can do that, and just give him his other accessories. But as I said, it is interesting to note that he does not have the full, he doesn't have a full set of accessories like the previous Robins did. They came with 3. A lot of them came with one of these backpacks, a quarterstaff or a katana, and then like a grapple launcher of some kind. Whereas this guy just seems to have the katana or the bow staff and a grapple launcher. So for some Bat family comparisons, because I have them handy, we will bring in a kind of more recent style. This is their more recent design for Batman, with the kind of Nightmare one excluded. So there's that Rebirth Batman, which looks to be another reissue of the really old style one that they've been kind of pumping out for a while. But we'll get into that when I get one, if I do. And then we'll bring in Barbara Gordon. This is a more recent style. It was in the same wave as the Grundy, so it is a more recent but not as updated as this. And because we will bring in something slightly different, and I have her to hand, and I haven't actually done a review for her, but it is a comic book universe, but a different comic book universe. I'll bring in the X-Men 97 Rogue figure, which is done in 4-inch scale, which is quite a nice figure. It is actually in the similar vein of these Batman figures. In fact, it has nearly the same articulation, with the exception of the thigh swivel. And then for something a little bit different, we'll bring in one of the Eagle Force figures, which is the Blade. Was it the Blade? Which, what's it called again? It's the one based on Big Trouble in Little China, but the Blade Cuts Both Ways is the name of the kind of sub-series that it is from. And as you can see, they look pretty good together. If you're a fan of Clayface, I do recommend this version of Clayface. The Robin, I know a lot of people aren't big fans of Robin when it comes to the Boy Wonder or the character of Robin. They tend to prefer his Nightwing persona more than, like, if it's a Dick Grayson Robin, they prefer the Nightwing persona over the Robin figure. But overall, this Robin figure isn't too bad. He looks pretty armored and pretty cool, so I do like the kind of sculpting work on that. He doesn't look quite as young as this kind of Damian Wayne style. You can get him to stand. He's not wanting to stand. He's a little bit taller. He's more of a aged out Robin from the looks of it, so it is what it is. He does have kind of the trademark Robin green and black and red suit. He doesn't look like the 60s Robin, so there is that plus for him, but all in all, he's not a bad looking figure. So as the Clayface and Robin go, they're not bad. I do hope I might be able to pick up, I might get the Joker, because he is a different sculpt. He looks a lot skinnier in person. When I saw him on the shelf, I just didn't pick him up. He looks a lot skinnier than the previous versions of Joker. Previous versions of Joker has this kind of more chunkiness to him, but the newer one looks way more skinny. But we'll get into that if I get one. So there you go, guys. Gonna wrap this up here. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you watched the end, and I hope you liked my little plethora of villains and heroes for a comparison. And as always, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and hopefully share this with friends who might enjoy it. So cheers, thanks for taking the time to watch this, and have a great day.